How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Set 6, and today we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy XVI. Now, first off, this has taken a lot of effort for me to drag myself away from God of War. God of War Ragnarok has pretty much consumed me almost entirely at this point. There is also the very slim chance that I might do a God of War Ragnarok theory video, just, you know, throw some predictions out for what's coming, so yeah, let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in that. I'm probably going to do it anyway, but, you know, just let me know. But we need to talk about Final Fantasy XVI, and we need to talk about the Eikons and the dominance, if I'm being completely honest, because they feel like they hold a lot of the secrets. Like, if we look at the interactions and where they've come from and things like that, I feel like we can figure out quite a bit. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look over the Eikons, we're going to look over that mural from the end of the recent Ambition trailer, because that was pretty crazy. And then once I've kind of gone over everything really quickly, I will only briefly go over this because we have done this before, but once I've gone over everything, we're gonna start. You know what I do. You know that I speculate wildly, so that's what we're going to do. Don't forget, hit the like button, tell YouTube that this is a good video so that it shows it to more people, and hit the subscribe button. I'm so thankful for all of you for getting us over the 1k. This is the first video since 1k actually, and hey, good times. Thank you very much, everybody. Much love. Here's to the next 1000. But enough of that. Let's get on with it. Let's talk Final Fantasy XVI. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through this mural really quickly. We're going to look at each of the icons that's on there, and we're going to briefly chat about their kingdom and their dominant. So we're going to start at the bottom, we're going to work our way up. We're going to start with Odin, who we've got down here on the bottom right. And Odin's dominant is Barnabas, who's a new character that we've really just got any details for. We've seen him a couple of times in previous trailers, we've seen the back of him, but now we've seen him full on, we've got a name, we've got the details about him. And Barnabas is known as the Warden of Darkness. He's someone who arrived on the shores of Ash, which is the eastern half of the Valistaean continent. And that's pretty much all of theirs. They do have to fend off beastmen occasionally who've tried to rise up against Waleed. It's Waleed, isn't it? It should be Waleed. It feels like it should be Waleed, but we'll leave that. And yeah, he's the dominant of Odin. The curious thing with Barnabas is his arrival, and the fact that he's just kind of arrived on the coast one day mysteriously. He's just a wanderer. That kind of hints to some things. That definitely hints that there's something more going on with him. And I'll get to this later on when we get to one of the icons that we've not seen before. So we'll come back to Odin. We will come back to Odin. But yeah, that's kind of the general thing. The crystal, the mother crystal in that area is Drake's spine. I would assume that that's nothing to do with Odin. That's my belief. That's nothing to do with Odin, that crystal. Maybe he's able to draw power from it because it's a mother crystal and he's a dominant / icon, so he can do it anyway. But I don't think that's Odin's mother crystal. But like I say, we'll come back to that. Next up, we've got Titan, and Titan's dominant is Hugo Kupka. Kupka? We'll go with Kupka, who's the economic advisor, the permanent economic advisor of the Dhalmekian Republic, the Republic of Dhalmekia, whichever way around it is. And he very much takes the forefront in a lot of the political maneuverings of this area, and he's definitely a big source of influence, it would seem. It seems that he's got a reasonable degree of power in comparison to the other dominants who seem to be servants of their realms. He seems like he's pretty much taken charge of his realm in a lot of ways. So that's an interesting dynamic to see. We also see that he ends up in a bit of a scuffle, a to-do, a kerfuffle. Anyway, a bit of a scrap with Benedicta. There's definitely some backstory going on there, which we don't have that many details about, but I'm sure we'll pick them up as time goes on. But yeah, that is Hugo Kupka, the dominant of Titan. Their crystal is known as Drake's Fang, and I have no reason to believe that Titan isn't directly connected to that in some way. This is me assuming that the icons are connected to the crystals in their realm in some way. Maybe not a direct permanent connection, but you know, the crystal is the thing that allows this icon / dominant kind of fusion. This, you know, the chance for this to happen, for a dominant to be born. I feel like it's the crystal that enables that in a specific area. Let me know what you think about that. I feel like that's pretty much a solid guess at this point. Anyway, yeah, moving on. Next up, we've got Bahamut, who is the icon of Dion Lesage. He seems like he's quite high up in the army as a Dragoon Knight for the Holy Empire of Sanbreque. We've seen a little bit about the Holy Empire of Sanbreque. They're not very nice. You know, the guy who's talking about, oh, who cares if the peasants die, we can just make them breed and get some new ones. That guy, that's the Holy Empire of Sanbreque. He seems like he's the king of that empire? The emperor. There we go. That probably works. Emperor. Empire. Yeah. He seems like he's in charge there, though. And then Dion Lesage, who is the dominant, seems like one of the leading military figures. That's what I mean, it makes sense. You know, the guy's got Bahamut. And I don't think there's... I don't think there's anything particularly sneaky and secretive about the Bahamut, Eikon and Dominant. I feel like they're just going to be standard. I do feel, however, that the Holy Empire of Sanbreque is probably going to hold a lot of the answers, and I would not be surprised if this mural that's kind of made a lot of us content creators lose our shit when we saw that trailer. I would expect that this mural is possibly in Sanbreque. That'd be a guess to me, because we see other artistic pieces that fit the motif of this mural in like the wide shots that we get of that throne room. We can see one in the background behind the king. Very similar style and motif. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in the Holy Empire of Sanbreque is where we actually find this mural, this tablet, this tapestry, whatever it is. This pretty picture. That's where we find the pretty picture. Now this is the first one we've not really got confirmation of, but Shiva, the dominant for Shiva seems like it's Jill Warwick. It does make sense. Jill was born in the fallen Northern Territories, which we haven't got any details on yet as far as I know. Let me know if I've missed that. I don't think we've got details of the fallen Northern Territories. Makes me think that there may have been a crystal there at some point. Maybe they fell to the Blight. Maybe like the Blight consumed that crystal and that was why, you know, they had to leave? I don't know. But Jill ends up being taken in as a ward by Rosaria, so she ends up growing up with Joshua and Clive. So she's going to be really close to them, and she seems like she's going to be a reasonably important character in the story, because we see that massive fight that goes on between Titan and Shiva. We see Jill being captured and ferried along in the most recent trailer. We see Jill facing down against someone ready for a fight. It's pretty much all but confirmed now that it is Jill. We've seen, you know, you see things in the trailers that make you think it is Jill, but they've not specifically confirmed it in the information on the website. But yeah, pretty confident. Jill Warwick, Shiva, and she's chilling in Rosaria, but she's from the Northern Territories, which could be an interesting one, and could potentially relate back to Odin. Now, like I say, Odin is a wanderer who's kind of arrived on the shores of Ash, so I don't necessarily think this is the option, and I will go over it in a minute, but I do think there is a chance that Shiva and Odin could maybe from the same region. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on, soon. Next up, we got Garuda. We know a fair bit about Garuda. Garuda is the icon of Benedicta. Benedicta's the dominant, and Benedicta's a member of Waleed's intelligence services, so she's quite closely tied with Odin, as far as we can see, and Barnabas. From what we can see in previous trailers, there seems to be a relationship going on there between the two of them. How deep that goes, who knows? But yeah, there's something going on there. And she seems to come up a lot in the trailers. She seems to have a bit of a mission against Hugo Kupka. I'm just going to call him Dave at this rate. But one thing about Benedicta is that she's on a mission to find the elusive second icon of fire. This is what it says on the Final Fantasy XVI website. So I assume that she's someone that we don't meet until after the time skip. I feel like the first section of the game is just going to be, we're going to meet Jill, we're going to meet Clive, we're going to meet Joshua, and then shit's going to go down. And then there'll be a time skip after that. And we'll be in a time where the events that have happened in Rosaria at the start of the game have happened, and the world has kind of reacted to that. So this is why Benedicta's looking for Ifrit, because she's like, well, there shouldn't be a second fire icon. I'm going to go and find out about this. She's an intelligence agent for Waleed. And we do hear, in one of the previous trailers, what seems to be Barnabas talking about uniting the icons. That's what he's talking about. Or it sounds like it's Barnabas. It's a voiceover bit that happens while we've got Barnabas and Benedicta on screen, if I remember correctly. We only see the backs of them, they're both naked. But you've got this voiceover talking about uniting the icons. And I kind of feel like Barnabas is kind of being framed and looks like he's this dark character, and that kind of gives us connotations that he's going to be evil. But I don't think he is. I think Barnabas could actually be a bit of a good guy. I think he's potentially a bit of a good guy. I don't know. Because it sounds like his mission is to unite the icons to fight against what's going on. That sounds like what he's looking for, and then that would make sense as to why Benedicta's out looking for Ifrit, so that they've got intelligence on it. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching on that. It feels possible though. It definitely does. Next up, we've got Ramuh. I always said Ramuh, but I feel like it might be Ramuh. I don't care. Maybe another Dave, who knows? But we've not really got anything on this character so far. We've seen the character. So in the recent Ambition trailer, we finally see the character traveling along with Clive at the start, and we later on see that same character covered in like the electric aura of Ramuh. I said Ramuh, I'm going to go with it. Please shout at me in the comments if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. But yeah, we've not got any details. I really want him to be called Biggs, because at the start of the trailer when we see Clive, the Ramuh dominant, and this other guy gives me strong Wedge vibes. He gives me such strong Wedge vibes. So could we finally get a Biggs who is semi-important? No, that feels harsh. All the Biggs and Wedges are important. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. And this one, we've got even less clue about. So the next one is Leviathan. Now, Leviathan, we have not seen at any point whatsoever. We have never seen Leviathan. This is the first time we're seeing it. We don't know if there's a dominant. We don't know where the dominant is. We don't know where Leviathan comes from. But there could be a little bit of speculation. Now, earlier on, we had Odin, who's arrived on the shores of Ash, which is the eastern side of the continent. And he's a dominant, and this is assuming that my belief earlier on that I stated, that, you know, a dominant can only be born in the area of a mother crystal. Like, there's a catchment zone. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like when you try to send your kid to a school. If you don't live in the catchment zone, the kid ain't going to the school. In Final Fantasy XVI, if you want to be a dominant, you gotta live in the catchment zone. Otherwise, you ain't got a chance. And if that's the case, and Barnabas has arrived on the coasts of Ash, I mean, there is a chance that he's come from the fallen northern territories, like I was saying earlier. But I feel like it's more likely that he's come from off Valistea. I feel like there's going to be a landmass or something like that that's not really documented out to the east of Valistea. And that is potentially where Odin has originally come from, and then that will give us a direct link to maybe visit there at some point in the game, and that's when we discover Leviathan. Just a guess. Just a guess, a complete guess, but it would kind of tie Barnabas's weird arrival quite neatly up, and would also then give us Leviathan. It would make sense that Leviathan kind of hovers around a little small island or something like that, being a water icon. I mean, another possibility is that there's like an underwater city, like an Atlantis type situation, but that feels a bit too much. That feels like it goes too far out of the way. I feel like an island is probably the best bet. Maybe something small that's been forgotten. There's maybe like a little town or something on there. Maybe it's really far out. Maybe it's like a good few days boat ride away. Something like that, who knows. But yeah, I think that that's a possibility. Which then brings us to the top of the image. And the first thing that we can notice is that there are no fire icons in the lower section of this mural. No fire icons, no Ifrit, no Phoenix, nothing. We've even got icons that we didn't know existed, but there's no Phoenix and there's no Ifrit. Which tells me that this top section potentially represents Phoenix and Ifrit. This top section seems to represent the fire icons. You've got this large Ifrit looking figure, which is like the central piece in this figure. Then you've got these really large wings that are coming off. Now, they don't look like Phoenix's wings, but what you'd have to assume, and this kind of comes into part of my belief over what the deal is with Ifrit, but this essence of Phoenix has been absorbed by Ifrit, and the wings have displayed themselves, but they've been corrupted by this Ifrit's essence, so they look like a more Ifritificated? Oh no. But you know what I'm saying? They look like Ifrit's version of these wings. So I'm reasonably stuck in my belief that Ifrit has consumed and absorbed Phoenix at the start of the game. But yeah, this looks like a fusion of Ifrit and Phoenix in this mural. And I think it's kind of depicting what needs to happen or what has happened previously in the past. Maybe there was a time when all of these icons were at war against each other, but there was this one overshadowing, almost deity-like icon, and that was the true fire icon, which was the fusion of Ifrit and Phoenix. But that then doesn't explain the bottom bit. The bottom bit's pretty weird. Now the bottom bit makes me think of that question mark icon that we see in the second trailer, the Dominance trailer I think it is. It definitely puts me in mind of that. There are differences, I'm not too sure, but yeah, it does put me in mind of that. It seems like this could be something that Ifrit can, if not use straight off the bat, but can acquire once he has become the fusion of Ifrit and Phoenix. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Like this is some sort of vehicle to some greater goal. So once Ifrit has acquired Phoenix, become this more superior Ifrit, it can gain access to whatever this is. Now whatever this is, I still have no idea. If we look at that footage from the trailer that we previously saw, we don't see much. We see little bits of a fight. it doesn't feel like there's any information to be gleaned in there. Now, there is the possibility that that isn't this creature that we're seeing in this mural, but if it's an icon, it would be in the mural, because every other icon is, pretty much. You can even argue that we've got this representation of Phoenix and Ifrit together, which therefore gives you both Phoenix and Ifrit. So, if it is another icon, surely it'd be there. Could it be like a corrupted version of Titan, maybe? I suppose that's possible, because it did have a very rocky formation to it. But yeah, I definitely feel like this is kind of endgame for Ifrit, the dark Ifrit that we see at least. This is like endgame. You've got your powers. Maybe it has to absorb a piece of the essence of each of the other icons, because as you can see, each of the icons has got like this ring around the head, and that could be to show dominance from Ifrit over each of the icons. So at this point, Ifrit has fused with Phoenix, taken dominance over every other icon, and then can manifest whatever this creature is that it seems to be standing on at the top of this mural. But yeah, the moment I saw this, it felt like a three-way fusion of Ifrit, Phoenix, and that question mark icon, potentially. Also, just really quickly before we move on, but is it just me that when I look at the top of this mural, sees the potential for a face to be there, but it's faded away? Is that just me? Or is anybody else seeing that? Let me know in the comments. Which then leads me into what is the deal with Ifrit. And I feel like the deal with Ifrit is to consume the other icons. I feel like Ifrit could potentially be like a reset button on everything. So when the Ifrit icon is born, it goes on a mission to consume all of the other icons and bring about the summoning of whatever this is here. Now, I need to do a bit more research and look into things a little bit more. But that's kind of where I'm at the minute as far as what's going on with this Ifrit, because it makes sense that it would eradicate, you know, the other fire icon. It makes sense that it would eradicate and consume that. But then this image kind of has Ifrit lording over all of the other icons. So this mural kind of reinforces to me my initial belief that Ifrit was going to be going around trying to consume each of the other icons. But then obviously we have the fact that there's two Ifrits, or at least at some point there's two Ifrits. So towards the end of the Dominance trailer, which is the second trailer if I remember right, I think I'm getting these trailers correct, remind me if I'm wrong. But at the end of it you see two Ifrits going against each other, one of them clearly a normal Ifrit, and the other one a dark variant of Ifrit. And I would guess that this dark variant of Ifrit is the one that shows up and attacks Phoenix. It's the one that I assume is summoned by that robed man that we see who arrives in Rosaria. And I would assume that Dark Ifrit is this Ifrit that we see in the mural here. Like, this seems to be a prophesized victory of Dark Ifrit. But then why is there another Ifrit about? And why does Clive have the ability that he does? And this is why it makes sense to me that Ifrit's kind of overall role is to take the power of each of the other icons. Maybe not take all of it, so I don't know if it'll strip the dominant of their power potentially. Maybe it's the different ways they do it. Maybe when Dark Ifrit does it, it does strip the dominant of their power and kills them. Whereas with Clive, it seems like he can maybe just take a portion of that power that he can then use in combat, which is why we then see him being able to cycle through different abilities depending on which icon he uses. So I don't think he'd be able to summon the full icon. I think he would only ever be Ifrit, but I think he can manifest their powers because he's got a fraction of it. So that kind of makes me convinced that the two sides of Ifrit are both about reuniting the icons, but potentially in a different way. But another thing I feel like this could explain is, I feel like this could explain the behaviour of the Iron Kingdom. Now we know that Rosaria draws its ether from Drake's Breath, and Drake's Breath is technically the mother crystal of the Iron Kingdom, not Rosaria. They kind of leech their energy off it. And I think that this kind of coming of Ifrit is the reason why the Iron Kingdom, by their own description, if anyone is born as a dominant, they are killed because they are viewed as an unholy abomination. I think this is because of Ifrit. I think the Iron Kingdom is probably the only kingdom that remembers Ifrit, or at least sort of remembers Ifrit. There is a possibility that initially it was about Ifrit and nowadays it's just kind of become something else, because it's been 1500 years since these events seemingly happened before. Because we know that something went down 1500 years ago that was reasonably cataclysmic, I think that could have been the events that we're about to see in Final Fantasy XVI on a cycle. So once these events had happened 1500 years ago, the Iron Kingdom know that the Ifrit Eikon comes from their crystal, and therefore anytime a dominant is born, that dominant is killed, in order to prevent the rise of Ifrit. The Iron Kingdom continue to do this over and over and over again, but something's changed this time, and a dominant of Ifrit has been born, but it seems like two are potentially born at the same time, and it would explain because there was a lot of belief in Rosaria that Phoenix would go to Clive, but then it skipped over him and went to Joshua. And I think that that happened because Clive was already chosen as one of the dominants of Ifrit. So you've got this normal Ifrit in Clive, you've got this dark Ifrit in whoever this robed guy is from the previous trailer. I believe it's him. And yeah, the Iron Kingdom have somehow messed up. One's slipped through. There's probably been some sort of conspiracy that's allowed it to happen or something like that. And that then leads us to the events of Final Fantasy XVI, where you've got the two Ifrits now, and they're trying to reunite the Icons in their own way. It's curious about Odin as to why he's trying to do this. Maybe he knows something of the prophecy of Ifrit or something like that. But yeah, there's a lot of possibilities in this. I'm going to dive into it a little bit more, but I've been thinking about it the last few days, in between thinking of God of War, and this feels like a good starting point, I feel. This feels like a good starting point to kind of speculate as to where things could go and what's going on. I definitely feel like Ifrit's to do with the Iron Kingdom, and I definitely feel like it's the reason why the Iron Kingdom kill dominants in the manner that they do. They just get rid of them in order to prevent the return of Ifrit. I feel like this mural is almost certainly going to be in Sanbreque somewhere, maybe in the palace or something like that, but somewhere. It looks similar to other things that we see there. And yeah, the two Ifrits trying to unite the Icons in different ways. The normal Ifrit trying to do it via, I suppose, the power of friendship. I suppose that's what it's going to be. Whereas the Dark Ifrit is just trying to consume them. Let me know what you think. I don't know. It's a possibility. I'm going to keep diving into it and see what else I can figure out. Let me know if you've got any theories that are slightly different. Don't forget, hit like on the video to push it up the YouTube rankings and let people know it's good. But more importantly than anything, have a great day.